for tuning into IoT Connect, where we're covering some of the most interesting topics, trends, and news around the Internet of Things. IoT Connect is brought to you by Teal, a wholly owned, patented, GSMA certified eSIM platform that helps to connect any device onto any network globally. Today, I'm very excited to welcome back to the show Patrick Bertania, the CEO of MetAlert. Patrick, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I thought we'd just kick things off. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how the Teal deployment's going.
It's going great. We started deploying them in our smart soles. We started shipping a couple of countries in Europe, obviously in the United States, and so far so good.
It's fantastic. So outside of the Smart Souls solution, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the Gun Alert product. Maybe you can tell our viewers a little bit more about that solution, because I know it's really exciting and something that you're thrilled about.
Sure. Yeah, so our Gun Alert product, for your audience out there that doesn't know, it's a three-in-one built-in gun security solution. And what I mean by three-in-one is it's a steel cable lock with a built-in highly sensitive motion sensor and a GPS cellular connectivity. And the use case is in the event that someone takes a firearm, the minute that that firearm is even touched, so think of it as if it's in your nightstand drawer or in your kitchen counter cabinet or something, but in your glove box, the minute that it's even touched, slightly touched, the firearm owner will get an alert on their phone saying someone's touching your firearm. And then if it's picked up and moved, the GPS and cellular kicks in so you can track it. So obviously this has massive implications in terms of providing some form of a pause to a gun tragedy. And what I mean by a pause to a gun tragedy is whether someone is thinking about committing suicide, whether someone is going to take a gun to school and try to commit, a heinous act, or use the gun nefariously in a robbery. In any event, the firearm owner will be notified and has the ability to recover that gun safely before it is used in a tragedy.
So when it comes to firearms, with this Gun Alert product, I imagine that security is a big thing that your customers are looking towards. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about why you chose Teal from a security standpoint.
Yeah, security is very, very important for a multitude of reasons. So one is we want to protect the privacy of the firearm owner. So we want to make sure that we've got an extra layer of encryption. All the data is never stored on our server. The minute that it is sent to the firearm owner, what I mean by data, the data of the gun being in motion. So as soon as it's sent to the firearm owner via an app, via a proprietary app, the data is then scrubbed off of our server. So even if law enforcement came to us a month from now and said, hey, we have a search warrant and we want to know where Rob's, gun was on this date, we wouldn't be able to tell them. And the second part of that is a lot of our business is done with government agencies, state, local, federal. And so whether it's military or law enforcement, nonprofits like the American Legion or Walk the Talk America. So a lot of these institutions that we work with and organizations we work with have a requirement in terms of security and privacy. As I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of government institutions aren't allowed to buy connectivity devices that are made in non-approved countries. I know you live and breathe this every day, just like we do. So it's really important to us to make sure that the integrity of the hardware, along with the integrity of the connectivity, is sacred, it's secure, it's private, it's encrypted. And what I love about Teal is everything you do on that extra added layer of security with what you do with making your SIMs in the US. So I think it's awesome.
I'm so glad you brought that up, and shameless plug here, but Teal, for anybody that's listening, we're the first and only eSIM solution to be certified, not just by the GSMA, but American telcos. We are US built, we're built to secure, US assets. And especially as you mentioned, when it comes to not just private, but the public sector, for the government, having something that's made here, built in America for America, that is controlled by America is very important. You mentioned encryption, and we do provide encryption to protect against attacks. One thing that I think we were talking about offline is that your smart device, like 90+% of smart devices today, are produced overseas, right, by foreign entities, sometimes in China or elsewhere. And a lot of attention's gone towards having something be built in America, secured in America. But one thing that's often overlooked is SIM technology, right? And specifically in our space, and you brought this up, when we look at who the players are from the SIM provider standpoint, it's the same thing. 97 plus percent of the SIM providers, that SIM tech, is produced by foreign entities. And what that means is that even though there's always best efforts made to protect a solution against hijacking, right? Like SIM hijacking, for instance, it's not always airtight because at the end of the day, it's a foreign built solution versus something like Teal, which is built in America. It does provide that encryption. It's really an end to end solution for complete data protection, which for you is really important for your customers. I know that we're talking about America, but also being able to deploy these solutions worldwide is important. And so we're honored that we have the trust of not just the GSMA, but also the telcos like the tier one carriers here in the States, like AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. But I'll step off this now, this shameless plug now. I'd love to learn a little bit more. You mentioned a partnership with the American Legion. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, we've been in conversations with them for many months now to work collaboratively with their Be the One division, which focuses on veteran suicide prevention. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the gun alert has a is a pause in the process of picking up that firearm and using that firearm. So whether it's a veteran that is going to, whether the gun alert is going to notify a veteran's inner circle, family members, caregivers, social worker, whomever they choose, if a veteran is going through some rough period in time, we certainly don't want to take away their firearm. I mean, they served. We need to give them the most respect, and taking something away from them, like you take away a toy from a child, is not the answer. But you still, if someone is struggling, you want to have some mechanisms in place to allow friends, family members, like I said, coworkers, to go in and check up on somebody and say, "Hey, how you doing? Where are you going with your gun today?" So that's one. The big one really for me is the school shootings. They seem to be happening all the time. And the statistics are overwhelming that when a kid takes a gun to school, that gun came from a household. 76% of every gun shooting, the gun came from their household or a family member or a neighbor. So they're not going on the streets and going to a gang and buying a gun, on the black market. They're getting them right from their house. So you're at work, you're a lawful, you're law abiding gun owner, you're at work. And even if you keep your gun locked, you'll never know if your gun got taken because somebody could just take it, get a bolt cutter, or hacksaw, cut off the lock, and then take the gun to school. Here, you'll know immediately. If your child goes in or your child's friends go into your nightstand or wherever you keep your firearms and just pick them up and touch them and start walking out the house, you'll know immediately where it is and you can intervene. And that's really, again, that pause comes in. You have the ability now to do something proactively prior to some tragedy happening. And that's really where, we see the significant benefit to society with our solution. And so, tying this up with Teal, it's really great that on our smart soles, the ability to steer that connectivity on a global basis is really critical to us because we have customers all over the world. The smart soles are designed for people with cognitive memory disorders, and that is, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, and that's not limited to the US. Everybody in the world has that. So our product is sold in over 40 countries. So being able to pick the carrier in that country is really critical. And on the gun alert side, the bulk of the business is domestically, but real security and privacy are very, very high on the list to most gun owners. And so for us to be able to assure that we make in America, we have partners that adhere to those principles and technological requirements for security and privacy is paramount to us.
Well, both of those solutions we've been talking about, the smart tools and the gun alert solution, are solving massive, massive problems, especially here in the States. I don't know why everyone with a gun wouldn't have your product, to be honest. I think we're all tired of hearing about school shootings, like you mentioned. veteran suicide, all these sorts of terrible things that are potentially preventable. So, hats off to you. And I think some people that are listening in might want to learn more about MetAlert. And I know we're right around the holidays. Do you guys have any promotions going on? Like, where can people find you and purchase your products?
Yeah, they can find us at metalert.com or mygunalert.com. And right now we're having a 40% off until Christmas, I believe, on the Smart Soles. And for all American Legion members, same thing, a 40% discount on the Gun Alert, available till Christmas.
That's fantastic.
We
So
always
go,
offer all law enforcement and veterans get 10% off no matter what.
nice.
So we're always trying to support our first responders, law enforcement, and military.
That's great to hear. So definitely go on over to metalert.com, mygunalert.com. These solutions really are life-saving products. Patrick, it's great to have you back on the show. Thanks again for the time. And for anybody listening out there, be sure to like and subscribe to the IoT Connect podcast. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Teal, you can find us online at teal.io, and you can also listen in to past and future episodes of the IoT Connect podcast at teal.io as well. Patrick, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.